So, as we started talking about slope yesterday, like I mentioned, slope is a big part of Math 8, okay? Not just this unit, but throughout the entire year, we're going to be using slope, and we're going to be finding slope, all right? So it's really important now, when we're at the very beginning, that we know what we're doing, and if we don't, then we're asking for help, right? Whether it's in class or after school during tutoring. So when we're solving for slope, like we saw yesterday, we might be given a graph or we might be given a table of points. We might also have a third scenario here, which is just giving us two coordinate pairs like 1, 4 and 2, 6. So on our worksheet today, it's going to be two sets of coordinates, and it's just going to say find the slope. All right? Now, there's multiple ways that we can go about doing this. We're going to learn how to use the official slope formula. However, the slope formula, at least in last year's experience, got really confusing for a lot of people, okay? Because there's kind of a lot of moving parts. So let's just see what the slope formula is and then how we're going to use it. After we talk about the slope formula, then we'll go over kind of the shortcut way to do it, which I think most of you will appreciate. So, let's go ahead and write out the slope formula. The slope formula is m equals So, go ahead and write down that formula. Those 2's and 1's are they're kind of like opposite exponents. Instead of being really small at the top corner of your number, they're really small at the bottom corner of your number. Okay, it's called a subscript. You have a little number like that. And it doesn't mean it's y squared or y to the power of 2. This 2 down on the bottom just signifies our second y value, okay? So this is our second y value minus our first y value, divided by our second x value minus our first x value. So it looks like we need two x values and two y values. Where are we going to find two x values and two y values if we don't have a table or a graph, Azalea? Exactly. All four of the numbers that we need are sitting right in front of us. We've got an x and a y and an x and a y. Four things to plug in, four numbers that you're given. The tricky part is, I think, for a lot of people, figuring out which number goes in which spot. Because if you get them mixed up, you're going to get the wrong answer, right? So let's take a look with example A. And we're going to use those same coordinate pairs up there. Find the slope. Okay, and our 2 points are 1, 4 and 2, 6. There we go. So the first thing we need to do is label each number with a variable. That's our first step. So here's how we're going to label each number with a variable. From left to right, starting with 1, we're going to call 1 x 1, or x sub 1 is how we would say that. And 4 is going to be y1, or y sub 1. It's our first x coordinate, comma, our first y coordinate, right? So what can we call the 2 here in our second point, Noah? X2. What about 6? What can we call 6? Y2, exactly. So I would say, just to be consistent, if you're going to use the actual slope formula like this and not the shortcut we learned later, just label it from left to right. If you start thinking, well, what if, can't this one be x1, y1, and this one be x2, y2? Yes, and you'll get the exact same answer. I would just keep it left to right so you don't forget and you don't mess yourself up. Okay, I saw a lot of people make really, really small mistakes on the test when it came to just labeling them and plugging them in correctly. Okay, so we don't want to make those mistakes. So we've labeled them x1 and x2, and we've got y1 and y2. Okay, here's step 1. Step 2 is going to be to plug in, or plug them in, to plug them into our formula. So, what's that going to look like? Well, our formula reads m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, here's how I want you to set this up. I want you to put 2 minus signs right in the middle. Those are never going to change. They're never going to be plus signs unless we have 2 negatives next to each other, right? We'll see that in a sec. And then I want you to put empty parentheses on either side of each negative sign. Good, good, good. So the thing that confuses people the most is when we have negative numbers in our coordinates, because then we're subtracting a negative, or we're starting with a positive and we're adding a negative, which is really just subtracting, right? All those different things swirling around in your head gets confusing. If you set it up with your parentheses like this, you will eliminate a lot of the confusion that you may fall into, okay? Because when we plug these in, it doesn't really help too much with this example because we have all positive numbers. But we'll see in the next example why this is helpful. So let's go ahead and plug it in. What's this first variable here? Y2, right? It's y2 in front minus y1. y2 is 6. And y1 is 4. Put them inside your parentheses just like that. What's our x2? Noah? 2. And what's our x1? 1. Nice and convenient. Accidentally did that. So there we go. We've plugged them in. Step 3 is then, of course, to simplify and solve. So if we take those parentheses away, it's just 6 minus 4. over 2 minus 1. Right? What's 6 minus 4 going to give us? 2. And what's 2 minus 1? Just 1. So our slope is 2. Questions on how we got to 2. Did we follow along with how we labeled our numbers, plugged them in, and then solved it? Give me a thumbs up if you followed along with that process pretty well. Okay. Good. Decent. What's next? Oh, let's take a look at another example real quick, and then we'll talk about the shortcut, and we'll get to work. So let's do this. -1. So 3 comma -2 and -1 comma 4. All right. What are we going to do first? We got 2 points. Yeah, what do we do first, Azalea? We got to label our points, right? So, from left to right, we're just going to go x1, y1, x2, y2. You got to switch colors, though. x1, y1, x2, y2. And that is step 1. So we got our first step done. We labeled our numbers with our variables. Our second step is going to be to plug them in and solve. No, sorry. Plug them in to our formula. Solve is step 3. So we're going to set it up with our parentheses just like this. Looks like 2 little bug-eyed creatures or something. Look like owls, kind of. And we're just going to put these numbers in exactly where they go. y2 on top is +4. And y1 is -2. x2 is what? What's our x2 value? -1. And what's our x1? 3. So now we can see when we have negative coordinates, setting up our parentheses like that is going to help us remember that, hey, we have 2 negative signs in here together. Yeah, what's up?
Oh, I know, never mind.
Okay. So, that looks right to me. Let's go ahead and solve this. First, we got to figure out what's going on with these signs. So we've got 4 minus -2. What happens when we have 2 minus signs next to each other, Brazon? It just becomes a positive. Great job. And we still have a minus sign on the bottom. So just like when we were adding and subtracting numbers at the very beginning of the term, we got to make sure we got our signs correct. It'll throw us off if not. And step 3 is to simplify and solve. So on the top we have 4 plus 2. What's that give us? 6. And on the bottom we have negative 1 minus 3. What's that going to give us? Negative 4. Exactly. Can we simplify 6 over 4? It looks like we can, right?
Yes.
What can we cancel out of 6 and 4?
2.
We can cancel out of 2. 6 divided by 2 would be 3. And 4 divided by 2 would be 2. So our final answer is m equals negative 3 over 2. And I've decided we're going to learn the shortcut tomorrow, because I want you guys to actually get practice with this formula. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the shortcut and then a couple other little things that we're going to sprinkle in. But you're going to see this formula next year in math and the year after in math. So if we don't actually practice with the formula now, you know, your teacher next year is not going to accept, oh, Mr. Church taught me a shortcut. They're going to be like, okay, well, you still have to know the formula. So I want you to still be prepared. Tomorrow, when we're reviewing, we'll talk about how we can get this answer a little bit easier. Some of you may have already been able to put it together. It's basically the same process that we do with our tables. But we'll learn that tomorrow. So we got a worksheet. It is front and back, but it's only 12 questions. I gave you plenty of space to work this out because it actually is kind of a lot of work to write out, right? So don't freak out that it's front and back. It's the same number of questions you normally have on a front and worksheet. Oh, I didn't collect them. You're very right. I'll put that. Grab those. Back and forth.
My fault.
What's up? Yeah, go ahead.
Talk to us.
No, I'm Asian.
When Skylar comes back, yeah.
Are you really?
It'll be okay.